Hi, this is Namita Anurag from Kahi Ankahi. Friends, today I am not going to narrate a story to you. Actually, a new category of Kahi Ankahi has been created by the name of Lamhe, wherein sparkles of our society will be invited to converse with. And today, we have such a bright sparkle with us who's an inspiration to many. She is a retired officer of the Indian Administrative Service. She is actually a social activist who's ever on move from Manipur to Mumbai. She is Miss Vandana Kumari Jena, retired as the Secretary to the Government of India, Department of Land Resources, Ministry of Rural Development. She has worked extensively in the fields of women empowerment, education, health, women and child development, skill development, rural development sectors. She is a woman of principles and values who has always stood for the rights of people and betterment of the society. Even now, that's after her retirement, she continues to serve the society by gifting them with her literary work. Yes, she is an eminent writer, having published 2 novels, The Dance of Death and Clueless, 3 collections of short stories, The Incubation Chamber, The Future is Mine, and One Rotten Apple and Other Stories. Her short stories have also appeared in over 20 anthologies. Many of her short stories and over 200 medals have been published in prestigious magazines like Femina, Eve's Weekly, New Woman, Savvy, Good Housekeeping, Women's Era, and newspapers like The Times of India, Hindustan Times, The Statesman, Indian Express, and The Pioneer, respectively. She also writes coffee table presentations and journals as well as stories for children. Friends, the list is long, but today we'll dive into author Vandana's latest collection of short stories, Over the Edge. Ma'am, a very warm welcome to you in Lamhe.
Thank you, Namita.
So, how are you, ma'am?
I am good. How are you?
I am good. And tomorrow we have Independence Day, so all the best wishes to you for the Independence Day. And it's a good time that we are talking about a person who has served the country for so long, and still she continues to serve the country. So thank you so much for having accepted our invitation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Namita.
So, Over the Edge is a collection of 24 short stories, and each story comes under a different theme. There is suspense, crime, ecstasy, thrill, agony of rejection, agony of defeat, jealousy. And what I have observed, the heroic or the main characters, they also exhibit the grey shades of emotions. But in those circumstances, they also appear to be convincing. So, how do you manage to describe such wide range of human emotions, and that also so beautifully, and I mean in such an explicit yet natural manner?
Namita, I don't think I described so many emotions which you are crediting me with, but I suppose the reason is that many of my stories are grounded in reality. The trigger for the story is something which has happened in my life, but the story is different. For instance, in the gold chain,
Yes.
I begin with a gold chain being snatched. Well, when I was staying in New Moti Bagh, I had gone for a morning walk to Nehru Park,
Yes.
and somebody had pulled my gold chain. My neck was cut and bleeding, and I was totally traumatized. That was the trigger, and I described my own experience. The story was, of course, pure fiction. Then, when I was writing Blood Winds, I was describing Manipur of 1981 when I was the sub-divisional officer Ukrul, There had been a convoy where 18 soldiers had died, 1 major and 17 jawans.
My God.
And then the army had gone on a rampage and pulled out women from the houses, arrested them, sold off their utensils and things like that. So I described the trauma, and that was an experience of mine. The story was, of course, a fictionalized piece. Similarly, in A Storm is Brewing, I described a cousin of mine who had lost her parents as a child. She was adopted by her uncle and aunt, and she never knew it till she was about 12 or 13 years old.
Okay.
Again, that was based on reality. So that is why maybe the emotions sound more real, because they aren't fictional.
Yes.
The emotions. But what I wanted to say is that if you are saying my stories are explicit, my dear, most of the people are writing far more explicit stories than mine, and I don't find that difficult either. It comes naturally to me because in my first book, The Dance of Death, the story is far more explicit than it is in the short stories Over the Edge.
Right. Okay, so what was your hardest scene to write? Was there any, or with the equal ease you were able to write all the stories?
With Over the Edge, all the stories were easy to write. There wasn't a single story I found hard. But I'm writing the new collection of short stories, tentatively entitled Father and Son, where I'm stuck on 2 stories which I have not been able to write. One of them is a murder mystery. It's a short story, but I use the drone in a very major way in identifying the killer. And the fact is that I don't really know how to use a drone, so I'm stuck.
Okay.
The other story was about a boy looking for his lost brother in Chikmagalur and Coorg. And then I have a problem with amnesia, and I'm not able to overcome that in the story. So in these 2 stories, I'm really stuck. And for the last couple of months, I'm trying to write them and I'm not able to do so.
Like in Coma, that boy who comes out of coma after 2 months and who's still suffering from amnesia, and when his memory returns and he remembers his past, the circumstances are so that he's not able to decide whether he should tell the truth to his parents or not. So that is really nice. And what I felt at many places, the guesses of the reader, they come out to be incorrect. Actually, that happened with me at many places, like A Storm is Brewing and in Essence of a Woman. The human passions are described so boldly over social codes and in natural manner. So those 2 stories really made me having goosebumps. And Breaking the Barriers, the daughter performs the last rites of a mother. So these are all very unique type of plots and very gripping plots. So really must read for all the people who love to read stories. So ma'am, your collection of short stories, that was One Rotten Apple and Other Stories, how's that different from Over the Edge?
Namita, if you've read One Rotten Apple, you'll realize that the stories are all theme based. They all have a twist in the tale, and they all have a female protagonist who has shades of grey, while the collection Over the Edge is eclectic. But the reason why One Rotten Apple was written was because I had written my first collection of short stories, which was called The Incubation Chamber. At that time, I was principal advisor in Planning Commission, looking after women and child development. So for me, All women were empowered, they were empathetic, they were sympathetic, they were very positive characters. And that's how I wrote the collection of short stories. Somebody interviewed me for a newspaper later on and said, how come all your women are bold, empowered, empathetic women and the men are weak or wicked? In reality, it is not so. Women can be clever, cunning and manipulative as well. And I thought maybe I have been doing a disservice to men. So to redress the balance, I wrote One Rotten Apple. But I had all the stories, had a twist in the tail. And I think the readers enjoyed that. And at least 6 of the stories there are prize-winning stories I had sent to anthologies earlier, and therefore the quality of that book I think is very, very good.
Now the last question, ma'am, and I'm asking on behalf of all the working women, including myself. You are in a demanding profession, civil services, where you are required to be away from your home and your children for long durations of time. So how did you manage the work and home life?
To balance the home and the office, the work-life balance.
Yes.
See, it was difficult. I unfortunately chose my work over my home life, but a lot of my secretaries gave me a lot of help. I will explain to you. When I was in Manipur as a deputy commissioner, Manipur is a very difficult place with a very difficult terrain. And I told my secretary I was a little afraid to take up the posting, saying my sons are small and if I go to a distant place like a subdivision and suddenly there is a roadblock, it will take 1 month for the people to clear that roadblock. So my children will be stuck at home in Churachandpur and I will be in a place like Thanlon and so how will I communicate with them? How will they live with just servants alone, etc.? I'm very worried. And she told me it's very simple. Just pack a jeep with your children and your maid and take them to wherever you have to go for inspection. They will enjoy themselves in the circuit house or guest house while you will do your work.
My
so
God.
I told her Manipur is so difficult. The water is so bad. You can't drink tap water. There isn't tap water in many places. So I said, how will I do that? And she said, it's very simple. Take a jerry can with 25 liters of water with you. That should suffice for your 2, 3, 4 day trip. And that was how I managed. She said, bring atta with you.
Oh God.
Let the maid cook food for your children. And that made life so simple. Later on, I passed on that message to my juniors. When I was divisional commissioner, I had this young girl who was a collector. Her husband was a collector in the adjoining districts. And every time they had a meeting in Bhubaneswar, they would leave the child with the maid, go for a day, stay in Bhubaneswar and come back. All the time the child was with the maid.
Okay.
And then I said, why don't you travel with your child in the maid? He will be in the circuit house. You'll attend the meeting. The whole evening you can spend with your child. In the 12-hour journey back to your district, you will still have your child for company. And later on, many years later, when I went back, she said, ma'am, I followed your advice. It was so good. My son got my company exclusively for 12 hours during the journey. The whole night after the meeting is over and then in the return journey. So I was able to spend quality time with my son because of this. So every problem in the career, which in the IAS is usually touring, meetings and being away from the family, can be addressed if you have solutions to it. Otherwise, it becomes very, very difficult because it is a very demanding career, much more demanding than any service, any central service, and it has a lot of political pressures and it has a lot of workload pressures, because
Right.
during elections you are working the whole night and your family is away. So you have to find solutions.
Personally, I would certainly recommend the book Over the Edge. It has a quality content, language is conversational with ample vocabulary and a stirring melange of ideas. Each story will keep you on the edge and sometimes may even take you over it. In short, a complete package of entertainment. Thank you, ma'am, for accepting our invitation and for sparing your valuable time for us today. Thank you so much. And
Thank you so much, Namita.
and happy Independence Day to you all.
Happy Independence Day to you too.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.